Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. My name is Gary, and we're going to do a little head-to-head comparison here on Lincoln versus Miller. And yes, I know these are not exactly identical class machines. It is not scientific, it is not factual. It's like everything else. Which is better? It's subjective. It's what's your opinion. So as you can see, just slightly off camera here, panning around there, we've got this mobile sheet and plate storage rack that we're in the process of building, and you see all the tubes on it. It's completely all tacked up but not welded yet, so we've got to weld this entire thing now. And I'm going to weld one half of it with Lincoln and the other half of it with the Miller, and then I'll come back at the end and give you some feedback on either one. And then over here you can see also I've got an Eastwood Welder, and I can already give you a comment that this is not a good welder. I've had this for 2 years. I've used it very little, and I've had lots of problems with it. Now, I'll give Eastwood a lot of credit. Their support is awesome. When I call them, they've been great. They've sent out parts immediately. And in this time, they've actually, even though it's been 2 years, I think it has a 5-year warranty, they've agreed to replace the whole machine because, yet again, it's down, which is why I have this new Lincoln welder that I had to go out and buy, because most of the time in here, we need 2 Mig Welders. You know, because you don't want to be waiting on a welder, and you know, and we may need to buy more. And just so you know, I am not a bigot or loyal to one or the other. I had a Lincoln Mig Welder before, similar to this one, a little bit smaller. Loved it, worked great, and then ended up getting this larger Miller, and then now purchased this one at Home Depot recently. So we're going to get started. Go ahead and show you some of the welding on this, and then we'll come back at the end and just give some basic feedback about the fit, finish, the feel, you know, observations and so forth. Real quick, safety. Yes, a lot of times when you see me TIG welding in videos, which is mostly what I do, I don't wear a lot of safety gear. I'm usually just welding a few little short things for just a minute or two. Is that a good excuse? No, but it's just how I do it. This is a lot of welding. It's probably going to take an hour, maybe 2 hours to weld all that up. I'm going to have long sleeves on. I'm going to have a respirator on. I'm going to set up some ventilation, pulling the air out, because it's going to make a lot of smoke in here. So we're going to get to it. All right, I was going to show you you saw the welding we got done there, and definitely some noticeable differences. I'm just going to kind of walk you through those, and some of these are, you know, a Miller versus Lincoln thing, and some of them are just the class of machines, you know, 2 different classes of machines that we're using. I don't know if this is showing up on the camera, but the one thing about the MIG guns, and I remember this from the other Lincoln I had as well, and notice the difference when I got this one, is the angle on the torch here is more severe on the Lincoln. The Miller has a more straight, you know, this is, I don't know what the degrees are. It's kind of subtle, but it is noticeable, and you can definitely feel that when you're welding. And I would guess it depending on what position you weld in the most. You know, if you're welding vertical and straight in front of you, you might want this one more. If you're welding horizontal on something that's up high, you know, where you got to kind of get your hand up, you'd want this one more. I prefer this one actually, the one with more angle on it than this one. The other noticeable difference is the thickness of the cord. Again, more to do with the class of machine, but you know, like when you're welding in a vertical position, and let's say you're working your way up and you're kind of working the torch, you know, nipping both edges. Well, on this one, it's light enough where you can do that, and the weight of the torch and the cord, you know, don't impact that. If you start doing that with this one, the weight of the actual cord hanging will actually influence the movement of the torch head, and you know, definitely something to keep an eye on. You know, if you're using two hands, you know, maybe one to prop, or sometimes I'll do it this way, or, you know, prop my hand here on something and hold it that way just to get a little more precise. If not, you can just, you know, you can grab the other end of the cord with this hand and keep it from doing that and do it one-handed. All right, so that's just those two things. The other thing that was happening, this thing by far will outproduce this one. Now, I have 025 wire in it, 035 wire in this. I mean, you should be able to adjust the speed, which I had both of them set at the exact factory specs for what it called for what I was welding, try to make it as equal as possible. So notice this one here kept getting stuck. I don't know if you probably, you know, it depends on how I'm going to edit this, but this thing got stuck to the tip a couple of different times. I had to stop what I was doing. This one never ever did that, and just so much faster. I mean, just penetrates, blows and goes. This one you're kind of lollygagging around, you know, just kind of letting it penetrate, letting it feed. Definitely a speed difference there for sure. All right, so here's our last little demonstration. We got these two other pieces that we're making for another project, and just got them tacked up. They're both equal. I'm going to weld one of them up with one welder and the other one up with the other welder, and we'll come back and I'm just going to compare the speeds on one of the runs from each one with each welder, and then we'll just look at the welds, and I'm going to try to be as consistent as I can between both of them, and we'll see what we get. All right, so there we go. This is the Lincoln here, and that's the Miller. You know, it's 1/4-inch plate, 14 gauge tubing, and you could just tell that the Lincoln was really struggling. You know, I got it pretty much close to wide open. I think I got it 1 notch below wide open, whatever it says for 1/4-inch, and then just kind of worked it up onto the plate. The one thing that really stands out to me about we'll check the speed here in a little bit, and we'll summarize that at the end. But the number of BBs and spatter on the Lincoln is definitely noticeable. We're running the same amount of gas, 20 CFH. And then here is the Miller. So but when you look at them side by side, it's not a significant amount of difference. They both did the job, you know. All right, just comparing two more things here between these two. 180 amp, 210 amp. So and then this is meant to be more of a hobbyist type, and this is more of a production type. Even though this is kind of still low end. of the range there for that. But the one thing, if you had to weld with this all the time, you know, one versus the other, that just immediately, you know, you notice is the sound. You know, this thing has a real high duty rate. Duty cycle. I don't know what it is, but the one thing you notice is when you put the welder on, there's no fan running, and it pretty much never comes on. Even when I was welding all the stuff on the this end here on the trailer, it may have come on right at the very end, but I'll turn this off. And in contrast to that, the whole time I was welding the other one, this is what I was listening to. Trailer, it may have come on right at the very end, but I'll turn this off. And in contrast to that, the whole time I was welding the other one, this is what I was listening to. I don't know if that's picking up in the camera how shrill and high pitched that is, but it is, yeah, it's, if you're just welding a little bit, it's not a big deal, but after a while, it kind of gets on your nerves, honestly. So, I think it'll be okay for a backup welder, you know, for the kind of stuff we do around here, the 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, it'll handle that. It's a decent brand, it's a Lincoln welder, but comparing the two, there's no question, this is the much more robust, you know, capable machine for a shop. And again, if you had the Lincoln in the same class, let me turn this off. Lincoln in the same class, you know, it may be comparable to it in the way it operates and all that. So, all right, we'll take a look at the speed and summarize it here at the end. All right, just concluding the video, got everything wrapped up, and as you saw there's about a half a second difference in welding 2 inches. So if you extrapolate that out to, you know, several hundred inches in a day, you know, there is a difference there. But really it comes down to comparing two different classes of machines. They are two different brands as well, and some subtle differences. But what do you think? Leave me a comment. Let me know if you think Miller or Lincoln is the best. Which one do you prefer? Thanks guys, have a good one.